do you think it means to have a Christ-centered marriage? Hey guys.
Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
Good.
All good, you know.
Thank you.
All good.
You guys are lovely.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're matching.
Yeah?
Yeah, I tried. Yeah.
Do you know what? She did put that top.
Yeah, I did.
She was like that, and I was like, what you did?
Which one?
Yeah,
Who made the first move?
Yeah, it was me.
I think it was her, yeah.
But
Like
just because I didn't want to, my friend at the time told me, don't be too forward, don't make the first move, wait for him. And I was like, nah.
Wow.
I'm not going to do that. So yeah, I did make the first move.
And did you say it paid off?
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I hope so.
What attracted you most to each other?
For me, I just loved how confident and smiley, but also really interested you were in me, especially at that time in my life as well. He was new, so it was really interesting to see the effort and the sort of, I call it the fairy tale effort, because that's literally what he would really do. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think obviously you see someone before you know what I mean? So first time I saw her, she was singing and I could hear her voice, she was singing with loads of other people, but I could literally hear her voice and I was just like, oof, oof. And I heard her name was Destiny Malcolm. I was like, oh, it's a superstar name. But yeah, then when I got speaking to her, she was cool as well, so that was all right.
What do you think it means to have a Christ-centered marriage?
I would say to have the intention and the mindfulness of everything you do, what is the reason behind it. So we both come from the same background and we both have the same understanding of Christ and the Bible, and so for us it's easy to sort of come to the table with questions of, actually, is this what we want for our relationship? Is this what we believe the Bible is saying about this topic or that topic? So it's being intentional about questioning everything against what we believe God would say.
Yeah, it's adding another person in the conversation, do you know what I mean? So it's still us two, but at the end of the day, the decisions that we make, the things that we talk about, etc., it always has to kind of include God in it, because he's so important. He's kind of the center. So if something is the center, then everything evolves around it. Do you know what I mean? So that's how I see that.
How do you overcome negative thoughts or feelings about your spouse?
That's a really interesting question. We've had conversations about this before, and I think firstly it's natural to feel those things. You can't expect happy days all the time. There's no such thing as this perfect couple that doesn't have negative thoughts towards the other, etc. But I think it's kind of realizing why you're together in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes in that moment when you're having that negative thoughts, it's do you know what I mean? Because you're not thinking holistically. You're not thinking about where you've come from. You're not thinking about your 8 years of whatever that's come before it. So I think remembering where you've come from, why you're with this person, and where you're going together, and then you just figure out from there.
I always say that it was because we were long distance for the whole of our dating years, and it was so much easier to have those negative thoughts then, because you're at a distance and also you have to come to conclusions about the other person and what they think of you yourself, without allowing them to be able to basically give their point of view. So when we became married, I saw how quickly my mind was just honest and open, and I would tell Dan the thoughts that I was having, and I think that's also important to be able to communicate what you're thinking with your spouse, because otherwise you are going to start to build upon those thoughts, and that it's not fair on the other person, and it's not fair on you as well.
Yeah, I think it's easy for your brain to spiral. Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? Just like whether you're long distance or not. More so, I think when you're long distance, because you don't have the person there to kind of refute your thoughts. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, actually, you're not like that. Actually, you're super beautiful as well, or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, communication of those thoughts as well. Kind of like, so that you can have the conversation about it if there's something that you need to fix maybe or do or etc.
Together.
You said you were in a long distance relationship. Can you give advice to couples who are in a long distance relationship and are aiming to get married?
So I don't know, I always see it as quite romantic, this whole long distance thing, or maybe it's romanticized, but it's actually really hard. Like, you literally go months without seeing someone, and then you see them, and then it's kind of like you're on this dating spree for a whole day. Do you know, or like 2-3 days, like they're staying at yours or whatever. Advice for someone in a long distance relationship. I say stay in communication, like continually. Would you say continually?
Yeah, I think it's important to sort of not break the streak, as I call it, because if you need to, it depends on the type of personality that you're dealing with. So I am very much and was very much an introvert when we were dating. It was very hard for me to always want to talk and always want to be on the phone. I actually hated the phone and Skype back then. We had. And it's just like, I'm just tired of the electronics and I just want you in person, but you have to put the effort in to actually speak. And we made it like paramount that we would call each other every day and pray. And sometimes we would want to read together, and you know, reality was we couldn't do that every single day, but we made sure that we always prayed together.
It's effort, isn't it? Because I remember, so basically I used to live in Hong Kong as well. So the time difference, like especially when the clocks changed here, it was like sometimes 8 hours. So it would mean that I'd have to wake up at 6 a.m. or sometimes.
And I'd have to stay up
until like 10, 11, and she goes to bed early. But it's like that kind of effort, like showing the other person as well that effort, I think is amazing. And then actually being romantic as well, like in your long distance, like find ways to be romantic somehow. Like figure out your way, do you know what I mean?
Maybe you have to leave your comfort zone because you don't have the person down the street, you know, just pop in all the time and say hi to their
with them flowers.
And with their flowers, but you have to maybe write letters or send flowers like through the mail or something like that. And I think that other person, both of you will really like see what you're comfortable with, and you'll be able to grow with your gestures as well. Like in time, you'll be able to see exactly what each other like.
And then even like go all out when you see each other. Because it's like, well, actually, like if you live closer, we'd be spending all this money going for dinner and stuff. But now, actually, let's do something like amazing.
Does your spouse have to be your best friend?
Yes. I think there are different, you can have different best friends in different situations, but I think that you are my best friend. Like, you have to be. And it's because everything that I feel, he also feels, and there's times where like I want to tell my sister things and it won't be I'm telling Dan, but that doesn't mean that in that moment he's not my best friend. It's just like he's my husband, he's my spouse, like, so we are best friends.
100. I mean, like, I love football, for example, but like I'm not gonna be like, yo, this happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a different type of. She's getting into it, but I guess there's different types of best friends. You're like my holistic best friend, you know. She's like my automatic travel buddy, my automatic. Do you know what I mean? My automatic +1. I guess you are my best friend. This is a big realization, guys.
Men and women often have different communication styles. Have you found this true in your marriage? If so, how do you navigate it?
So this is kind of my topic, my baby, because I'm really into and interested and dedicated to the menstrual cycle. So having different phases of your cycle throughout the month means that you feel differently through all of those phases. So there's times where I'm going to be like, for example, on my period, and I'm not going to want to speak to anyone. I'm not going to want to interact with Dan in the same way that I would if it was 2 weeks later, for example. And so I've really been like educating myself, but Dan's also been like educated as well through that, and so we both understand like where I am. And it also, I think it's actually really important for not just married couples but anyone who's dating to kind of like release themselves from that stigma of, oh, don't talk to me because I'm in a mood, like, but understanding the science behind it or the emotions behind it, and like just accepting that sometimes Dan's going to be in a situation where he's come back from work and like something's happened, or he's not going to want to open up, where I'm like super bubbly and in my happy space. We're not going to have the same levels of communication, but I think it's okay, and it's important to like make room for that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually, like especially being married when you're together now, because obviously we didn't live in the same house before or anything like that. We were long distance as well. So for example, I don't know, like maybe I want a hug or something like that, but actually one day she's not feeling it, and actually understanding where she is in her cycle and things like that actually kind of alters your communication at that stage. But I think in general, in terms of differences between communication, I mean, I'm kind of one of those people that, like, if I'm going through something, and I think a lot of guys are like this, we just kind of like internalize it, we take it, we don't say anything to anyone. I guess that can be quite detrimental sometimes, because I'm just here in my own, and you can probably see it sometimes as well, like he's quiet, he's feeling that way. But learning to open up, like last week for example, learning to open up a bit more, it feels horrible. I'm not gonna lie, I'm just like, ugh, I've got to speak about my feelings, like it's horrific. But actually it's helpful for her to see where I am, and it's probably helpful for me as well, because I can just share the burden.
Share the burden, like, it's important.
Apparently.
I love that, and I know you just said that you internalize things. So in a situation like that, how do you create an environment for him to open up to you?
Yeah, I think with that comes time. I know that for me, I would love to just, actually, I don't love to talk about it there and then. I will go to my journal and like write about it and tell my sister or something else, and then come back. And I think it's the same for Dan. Like, I have to give him that space that I might need if I'm going for a walk and I'm going to write it in my journal. He might need that space, but he might just be watching football. And like, I have to allow him that time, because otherwise it's not going to be effective. Like, our conversation isn't going to be effective, and also there might be like things that I might take personal that I might not have taken personal.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes there's just things that I just probably just don't need to tell you either, do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes I just need sleep. Like, I need food and sleep, and then after that I'm perfectly fine. And I guess you can see that sometimes, like, I might just go to bed just like midday or something like that, and it's kind of like before that I'm just feeling like terrible, but then after the sleep I'm just like, yeah, so what's up, what's good? Like, do you know what I mean? So it just depends, like everything depends on the situation really, innit?
So interesting. So from that, how do you resolve conflicts and not take things too seriously?
Yes. Okay, for me, I'll go first. I think that, well, firstly, I'd just like to say I do feel super blessed to like have you as a spouse, because where I'm coming from, like conflict, I'm basically built to like defend and to sort of, you know, just always have my backup, but I'm also very like sensitive and emotional as well, and so I've had to learn to kind of let my guard down a bit with you and allow you to kind of just tell me how it is, for example, or help me through a situation, even though we are having a conflict, you always let me know that it's not us, it's not like you're not mad at me. And that's like, I've had to learn that because it's very, very hard.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, conflict is just horrible in general. It's kind of like everyone goes through conflict at some point, whether it's with your partner or your friends or whatever, and like having like the courage to face things, I think it's God-given. Like, let's be real, like if you look in the Bible and things like that, like Jesus, he was like the ultimate confronter. He was just like, he'd say it as it is, like this is what's wrong, but your sins are forgiven, no more. And he'd like kind of like confront it and then find a solution. And I think there's so many books on that as well, like caring enough to confront, etc. Those kind of ones. But it's not nice. I'm gonna be real. I don't like confronting things. It's not natural to me. I just kind of want to get on with life. I'll be fine. But actually, probably you won't be as fine as if I just kind of continued, etc. So yeah, it's kind of like having that Jesus mindset, like actually you can still be a Christian and confront this in a godly way without like screaming at each other. I don't see it as like a horrific argument. It's more like a disagreement that we need to just solve. And then once we've solved it, like let's get back on track and do our thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.